Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. Um, I'm so happy and so thankful for being able to give a BNN online lecture, and the added bonus of being able to do the last one of the year in the beginning of December, in the beginning of Advent, which is my favorite time of the year. So when I was deciding what to talk about, I decided to go a bit seasonal. So I'm going to take you on a little trip. I'm going to introduce you to a Christmas family, which is part of the Christmas traditions here in Iceland. Very much alive in kicking lore and tradition, with deep, old, complicated roots, which I will never be able to give you a full picture of, but I'm going to try to give you at least a hint. One member of that family, his name is Stekkjarstaur, and I'm hoping I will be able to introduce you to him somewhere in this video. He has promised to meet me to do the recordings, but I don't know if he will show. Worst case scenario, I will tell you something a little bit extra about him later in the video. But I'm going to tell you about the tradition, the family, what they are today, and ask Stekkjarstaur where they can go from here. At the eve of December 11th, the first one, Stekkjarstaur, who's actually here in the window with me, roams the land on foot, placing small presents in children's shoes that have been placed in every child's bedroom window for this purpose. And each night until Christmas, the brothers come one at a night out from the darkness to both scare us and treat us with their company in the advent of Christmas and winter solstice. After Christmas, they leave in the same fashion, one at a time, but now without a trace. These 13 nights before and after Christmas are a time of belief and magic for Icelandic children who wait the arrival of the brothers, believe in their power to visit every window and every shoe, each small present solidifying and strengthening their belief. It has been said that the Icelandic lads have managed to travel to other countries, bringing the shoe gifts to Icelandic children that live abroad. But to get that gift over the ocean and all the land and all the mountains, it is, however, vital to believe in the story. The lads and their extended family are an intricate part of our Advent and Christmas traditions and an important social performance and drama that everybody participates in. For the younger children, the belief is strong. For older siblings, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, basically all the rest, all of us, everyone, publicly and privately, we all participate and contribute to the social drama that is the belief and tradition of Jólasveinar. It is simple. Doubting the existence of the lads is a private conversation for each child to have with their family, a conversation that usually takes place around the age of 8 or 9. But beyond that private conversation, it is simply a fact that the Jólasveinar are real. They do exist. They bring every child a present in one night, and they know if you have not been on your best behavior. Because if you don't behave, you risk actually not getting a present in your shoe, but a raw potato. Well, I would rather have a piece of chocolate, a tangerine, or something, some small sweet gift rather than a raw potato. However, I did hear once about a young lady who got a raw potato in her shoe because she had not brushed her teeth or whatever it was that she had done to deserve that potato. But she was so happy about it. And the first thing she said when she woke up in the morning, found a raw potato in her shoe, she said, "Yay! I'm going to cook it and make mashed potato." Here we have part of the family. Not everybody is here, but a few are. Grýla there in the front, the mother of the clan, the cat, and over here, next to me, is Ebenezersdottir himself. Hopefully we will be able to find him somewhere, but until then this will be his representative. These figurines are made after drawings by Brian Pilkington, who is one of the artists that have given us a glimpse into his imagination of how the family looks like. It's a bunch of people with all kinds of differences, similarities as well, like all of us. Like I told you before, they have a very complex family history, and it goes back to, well, Grýla, the mother of the clan, is of course first in line. We can find mentions of her in sagas and poems and other such things from the 15th and 16th century, where she is described as a troll, a man-eating troll. She allegedly has eaten at least one of her lovers, but she has a sweet tooth for unbehaved children. And as such, she has throughout time been used as a scare tactic in rearing children. And Grýla has actually become the word that we use for something scary to scare children with, even if it isn't that one particular. She deserves her own research, and she has gotten her own research. So I recommend, if you want to know more about Grýla, and not least her connection to her sister beings in other female trollish Christmas creatures of Europe, you check out what Terry Gunnell has said and wrote about them, and about Grýla in particular. Now, the Jólasveinar themselves are first mentioned in the 17th century. And they are the children of Grýla. There are actually, in those instances, there are a few females in there as well, few sisters, but they are the children of Grýla. They are very much trollish, and they are quite obnoxious and very, very scary and very, very dangerous. They are coming out of the darkness, out of the wilderness, out of the mountains during midwinter, and they are just being very, very scary for all. And they are coming so much from the wilderness that some of them are even said to come by sea, sailing on skin boats. So they're actually coming from somewhere very, very different from where people are living. So they were very scary. It's then in about 1860 when Jón Árnason, who collected, edited, and prepared for printing the first legend collection in Iceland. And Ebenezersdottir and his brothers here are actually standing on one of the volumes from that collection. And when Árnason was gathering his material, he got letters from people around, or mostly men, people around the country from different places, with some legends of Jólasveinar, but also lists of names. And people from different parts of the country were giving him different names and different numbers. So it came together, adding up, and adding up. After Árnason finished his collection and published his collection, more collection was done in the second half of the 19th century. And altogether, there are about 80 names of Jólasveinar, few sisters in there, not many, but a few, but about 80 names from different parts of the country. So it is clear from this that this was very much a living regional lore at the time of that collection. And it has, of course, like I've been saying, it kept going. It's still alive, and we are still adding names, and I will give you examples later. Many of these names are very descriptive about the role of Jólasveinar, why they were coming and what they were doing. They indicate that they're very food-driven, and they come to the homestead in the middle of winter when you're maybe getting scared about having enough to survive the winter. It's the darkest time, it's the coldest time, and they're coming and they want your food. They're coming to steal the food. For example, bjúgnakrækir, I don't have him here, but Bjúknakrækir means sausage snapper. Skýrgámur, he's there in the front next to his mother. And skýrgámur basically means skýrgobbler, and skýr is a fresh cheese that is in Iceland usually eaten in a similar fashion to yogurt. And then there are a few that are not necessarily food-oriented, but very kind of nasty and creepy. And for example, this guy here, Gluggagægir, is basically a window peeper. And we have Faldafeikir, who lifts the hems of ladies' skirts. So yeah, they're quite nasty. They're after our food and they want to scare the hell out of us in the worst time of year. At the turn of the century, just around the year 1900, there was a bit of a tangle up with our trawlers Jólasveinar and the Danish Yule Nissar, the Christmas Nissar. They're kind of like smallish creatures, kind of like a house elfy kind of things, and they're very nice. Our guys are like nasty and creepy and stealing and stuff like that, while the Danish Nissar come and give gifts. This is a bit of a loose element in the history of these guys, but still it seems that they got some influences from Denmark there. And our band of lads starts to adapt new ideas in the society that they come to visit every Christmas. And it keeps going. In 1932, this little thing, it's a collection of poems written by Jóhannes úr Kötlum, and it's a collection of Christmas poems for children. One in there is about Grýla, another one is about the Yule cat, and then there's another one about the 13 lads. There are a few others, but let's focus on these ones. So this is poetry based on old traditions and old legends, where these 13 lads are fixed on the pages and in people's minds. So they kind of solidified the family of Grýla, her 13 sons, their father Leppalúði, I don't have him here, but then again he's a bit of a deadbeat, and the cat. So in 1932, we all of a sudden have a text that is well-defined, well-structured, builds on the old material, but kind of gives a sense of cohesion. It's not all over the place. And it brings together and kind of, we lose part of that regionality that we had with the over 80 names by him choosing these 13. And speak of the creepy ones, the one Faldafeikir, the one that sweeps up the skirts of the ladies, he did not find that a very prudent thing, a prudent jólasveinn to present to the children. So he switched him out for the hurðarskellir, door slammer, who goes around just being noisy and a bit disruptive, to say the least. But so now we have a solidified family, a nuclear family. A few decades later, something very peculiar happens. A folklorist, this is happening sometimes in the 1960s. We don't know exactly when. We probably could find out, but never ruin a good story, right? Somewhere in the 1960s, probably early 1960s, the national radio calls Árni Björnsson, the author of this beautiful book here, which is called Saga Jólanna, the saga of Yule or Christmas, the history of Yule, the story of Yule, the story of Christmas. They call him up. At this point, Árni Björnsson was a pioneering person in the field of folkloristics in Iceland. He was one of the people that started collecting folkways by questionnaires for the National Museum, and this book and others that he has written are based very much on that collection and research. So he was like in the heat of things at the time, and the radio calls him up and says, we need you to come in
and take part of this debate that is going. So there had been some debate about jólasveinar giving children gifts in their shoes, but not every child got a gift, and some children got very big and expensive gifts, and others only got something small. Some children were getting maybe 1 or 2 gifts during the month of December. Others were getting a gift every single night from December 1st until Christmas. So it was all over the place. These guys were not being coherent at all. So the radio asks Björnsson to come in and take part of this discussion. Being a folklorist, being a Christmas specialist in a way, it was clear that he had some connection to this family. He knew them, he knew about them, knew everything about them, and probably had a phone line up there, wherever up there is. So he came in as an authority with a connection to the family. And he says that on behalf of the jólasveinar, they had decided that this was a total mess and something had to be done. So from now on, these particular 13 would arrive in the last 13 days before Christmas, and put a small, affordable gift in every shoe. It could be a tangerine, a piece of chocolate, maybe a new pencil for school, something very small, but something that would make a child happy. And this worked. So all of a sudden, practically every child in Iceland got 13 small gifts in their shoes the last 13 nights before Christmas. This debate about how expensive and big the gift in the shoe should be comes up every now and then, however, because we always, let's say every 5th year or so, we hear rumors about big things landing in the shoes, like an iPhone or a video game or something that is so much bigger than a little piece of chocolate. So we have that discussion still going, but it's only the 13. And with that, the nuclear family was definitely formed not only in poetry, but as a tradition, as part of the Christmas tradition. They still very much are a nuclear family. They still are very, very food-oriented, but instead of being afraid of them coming and stealing our food, we share our treats with them. And some children, for example, they leave a pot of skyr for skyrkomur when he comes around, and a piece of cured meat for kjötkrækir, who a meat, he's not here either, he's a meat snatcher, a meat hook. And he really loves hangikjöt, our cured Christmas meat, so some people leave something out for him. And the children also leave candles for kertasníkir. He's actually over there. He's not really sure what to do with the modern wax candles, because his fascination with candles has always been the tallow candles that he can actually eat. But he does like the pretty lights, so it's fine. They can still be a bit naughty, and I don't think it's ever going to be possible to shake that out of them completely. But they are absolutely not as horrible and horrific as they used to be in the early days. They have remarkably, despite of modernity and globalism and technology and all of these things, and even the poetry and national radio and national TV and all of these things, they are still keeping a little bit of locality. Because if you ask children that live in the capital area here in the southwest of Iceland, where they live, they will tell you that they live in the mountain Esja, which is basically, because I'm standing here in my home, it's over there. If you ask children that live in the northern part of the country where they get their mail sent to, they will tell you it's in Dimmuborgir. And Dimmuborgir is a fascinating lava maze fairy tale landscape in the north. And according to those children, they live there. And all of these children are absolutely sure in their situational closeness to the family, and they never argue about it. So even if you put a child from one part of the country and the other part of the country together, they just don't talk about it because they both know that they're right.
So, for the last about 20 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, the brothers and the whole family actually have been kind of getting more into flowing with the mindset of the 21st century, adding to the role of their gift giving. And kind of, getting to grips with what's going on in our time. This means, among other things, that they have tried to get to grips with some technology, which is one reason why I think Stekkjarstaur is still a no-show, because we're having some technical issues regarding communication in that sense. So I'm still hoping that he will show up. But I mean, you can imagine it's not the easiest thing to get a good internet connection straight into the mountains. So that's not very an easy thing to do, but they are trying. They are also showing up for scheduled events of the modern time. They show up for Christmas balls in companies where parents are working. They also come to the schools and the kindergartens. And they also sometimes show up unannounced into events like Christmas markets, like the one that I'm actually standing in right now, even though it's closed and nobody's here. It's a very pretty sight, and I'm pretty sure that every weekend that this market is open, there are some jólasveinar that will show up, unannounced, of course. There's another thing that they have kind of added to their thing, and that is clothing. Traditionally, they are clothed in more like homespun woolly clothes with maybe not the brightest of colors, clothing that is kind of it's kind of 18th century-esque in how it looks. But they have been, for the last few decades, they have also been showing up in the red and white outfit of Saint Nicholas and other Santa Clauses of the world, kind of depending on where they are and who they're talking to and so on. Regarding the other Santa Claus, specifically maybe like this idea about a Santa Claus that lives in the North Pole, the Coca-Cola Santa kind of idea. Children in Iceland are very clear on that the 13 jólasveinar are theirs. They tend to them during this time of the year, while the other one is more like a distant Christmassy figure that kind of takes care of other children around the world. So they know about him, but it's the lads that are here for them during their everyday life. I mean, how could they not be part of everyday life when they sneak into their bedrooms through windows and put gifts in their shoes every night? But part of the negative side of getting to grips with the 21st century and the last kind of the exchange of the century is that they have also fallen kind of into the pit of capitalism around Christmas. So the capitalist idea of the modern Xmas, they have definitely gotten kind of into that. Maybe not on purpose, but they are there. We can see them in Christmas advertisements for a long time now. Before Christmas, the milk cartons in Iceland change the design. They go from mjólk to jólamjólk, so milk to Christmas milk, and there are little pictures of the jólasveinar on the cartons. They also show up on, for example, seasonal ice cream, candy bars, and kind of for the grown-ups, they also kind of sneak into the alcohol and beer and ale of the season. So a good example is a non-alcoholic beer called Froðusleikir, which is also how this lively tradition is kind of working with the fact that the 13 are kind of holy. They are kind of for the family and holy for the children. So when it comes to some grown-up issues like beer, we get new names because we have this tradition of all the names, so it's open for business to add to it. So Froðursleikir means foam liquor, which is very beer sounding jólasveinn, and very much in coordinates with other food related names of the jólasveinar. Just to give an example of few, there's like skýrgámur, skýrgobler, there is kjötkrókur, meat hooker, bjúgnakrækir, sausage snatcher, and so on. So they kind of get in there with that. But the downside, well, one more very important jólasveinn, the 14th, that is definitely not for the children. This one is definitely for the grown-ups, because he doesn't arrive until February, and he is called kortaklippir. So he comes in February to snip the credit cards of the grown-ups after Christmas. But to kind of try to balance out this element of commercialism and capitalism and everything. And I mean, in both cases, they have kind of gotten more into humanitarian work and try to encourage us to give gifts that keep on giving, and things like that, to kind of draw out a little bit of the materiality and support, for example, children that don't have much in the world and so on. So they have tried to get into that kind of work as well to kind of balance this out. So it's clear that they have proven to be very adaptable to the social landscape of each time. And I think that is something that has been going for a long time. Basically, from the beginning, they have always been a very strong mirror of our society, and they will continue to do that. Now, where can they go from staying with their main role of bringing gifts and joy and a little bit of naughtiness into the Advent time, to the commercialism, to the humanitarian work? Where can they go next? There's a reason why me and Stekkastur have been talking about his possible role in activism for a long time. But he's not here. I'm going to see if I can find him somewhere else. So where can we go from here? I still haven't found Stekkastur. I don't think he is coming. I'm sorry about that. But who is he? Well, he is the first of the jólasveinar, and in the old days, first time when he came to town or came to the homesteads, he always began by going into the sheep huts because he wanted a sip of milk from the straight from the sheep from the ewes. Really loved that milk and was willing to do quite a lot to get it, being one of the food-oriented lads, of course. But it turns out that not only is it an impossible task to get a milk from a ewe in the middle of December as they are in heat, but also sheep huts are quite narrow and not very accessible when you have a body that looks and moves differently from maybe most people that can easily kind of squeeze into tiny little sheep huts. And I think, well, if you would ask a child today who is their favorite jólasveinn, Stekkastur is probably one of the last ones to be mentioned. And I think there are two reasons for it. Number one, they don't recognize his love of sheep milk. He has now realized that he will never get a sheep milk in the middle of December, but he has developed a taste for good imported pecorino, and we share that, me and Stekkastur. We both love pecorino. But children don't know that, and they don't know the taste of the sheep milk, so they don't really get that connection with him. And another thing is that his body is different from theirs. He moves differently. They don't understand what's the deal about those legs that when he's described as having either stiff legs, unbending knees, or even some kind of peg legs or prosthetics. So they don't connect to him with that. But when I was about 5, I have this strong memory of being about 5 years old and being asked, who is your favorite jólasveinn? And I would say, because I felt that it was some kind of something that I needed to do, was to say it was Stekkastur. In my 5-year-old heart, it was, however, Stúfur. But I felt obligated to say it was Stekkjarstaur, and I didn't understand why, but I did. In recent years, I have actually come to recognize why I felt that obligation, and it's no longer an obligation. He absolutely is one of my favorites. I mean, we sit down every year and discuss this whole thing and what he can do and if he can become a disability activist. So of course it's my favorite now, because we have this connection. I see myself in him, and I did see myself in him when I was little as well, even if I didn't realize it, and nobody took the chance to actually talk about it with me. I wish they would have, but they haven't. So I want to do that now. I want to talk to children that can find themselves in the diversity that we can find within the group of Jólasveinar, because there are more variety than only Stekkjarstaur. He's just the one that I connect with, because we have this connection of having a different body, using some kind of prosthetics, which, by the way, we should maybe check that out, because of course I have people that make my prosthetics, so I would think that Stekkjarstaur does as well, so maybe we should check that out.
My name is Guðmundur Magnusson. I'm working in the field of orthotics and prosthetics. Orthoses are splints and prosthetics are prostheses for artificial limbs. And my profession is orthotist and prosthetist.
Is Stekkjarstaur your client?
No comment.
No comment is maybe the biggest yes we can get, as Guðmundur can of course not break privilege towards his clients. So at least I would take that no comment as big fat yes, that Stekkjarstaur is his client, or at least they have some kind of situation going on. And I would think so, because I can't believe that Stekkjarstaur would not use modern technology and get really the creme of the crop of technology in prosthetics and good shoes and all of these things that are possible. Hello, someone is coming on a sled. That's just fun. But yeah, I would think he would absolutely go for those things. And if he doesn't, he should. Because I know from personal experience what it's like to be walking in deep snow in Iceland when you can't bend a knee. It's not always fun. We love the snow, we love the nature, but I think the municipalities, for example, why don't they make sure that all the walkways are cleared of snow to make it easier for him when he comes? I think he should go into that. And I have actually seen somebody do a drawing of him when he had these like very spiffy, sporty prosthetics going on. So I think he absolutely is there. But back to the core of it. He's part of a living tradition that is ever changing and is speaking into and out of the mindset of every time. So I think this is the perfect time for Stekkjarstaur and some of his brothers to actually start stepping into the role of representing not only the singularity and the uniformity of the family and the nation, if we could say so, but also recognize their individuality, not only towards food, which is of course important, but their physical, mental abilities and diversity and beauty in that. And I think in that sense, our fantastic Christmas tradition of these brothers, I think they can step into that role. And I think Stekkjarstaur would become more popular if he would do that. Because children know diversity and they love diversity. They just don't realize that Stekkjarstaur is part of that. On a very windy December evening in Iceland, thank you for joining me for this little trip. I hope you have had fun, and on behalf of myself and Stekkjarstaur, the no-show, I wish you an eventful and warm Advent and a very, very happy holidays.